KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Parents worry about getting parenting right, limiting screen time, teaching responsibility, helping with homework, but not too much. It's a lot of pressure. Author Deborah Winking is a psychologist and elementary school teacher who lives in Fort Collins. And she found her fears about raising a well-rounded child magnified after her son Jack was diagnosed with Sotos syndrome, a rare neurological disorder. Doctors weren't optimistic that Jack would be able to live a full life. But Deb figured out how to support her son through childhood and school. Along the way, she developed some guidelines for what it means to be a supportive parent. Her newest book, Raising Capable Kids, distills years of her research and experience into a set of habits for parents. She wrote it with families of neurodivergent kids in mind, but she says she hopes her book is useful to any parents or teachers who want their kids to grow into strong, curious, independent human beings. She spoke with me about some of the advice she offers to parents. You have a particular way of thinking about and talking about the word capable. What does it mean in the context of your work?
So when I talk about capable in my work, I define it as an individual living a meaning-filled life as determined by them and those who love them, with the maximum level of autonomy and agency that they can access. Wow, that sounds like a mouthful, but if you break those words apart, one, a meaningful life, and two, where your child is in charge of setting their own course to the extent that they can be. Isn't that what we want for all of our kids, whether typical or neurotypical?
Sure. And it varies for each child, kind of finding what works for them.
Absolutely. And in my work, that may, but does not necessarily mean going to college or getting a job. With the students I work with, it may mean having the important task in your house of ordering the pet food for the family or taking care of the family dog. Or it may mean mastering the ability to use your eye gaze to activate a communication device that gets your ideas out into the world.
Your book outlines 12 habits. Let's talk about one of the habits that frankly seems a little bit terrifying to me, and that is to allow your child to make choices and experience the consequence of those choices. What do you say, Deb, to parents who are anxious about this idea?
Absolutely. I say, feel the fear and do it anyway, because making choices and experiencing the consequences of those choices is one of the things that makes us fully human. So in the process of researching this book, I talked with scores of parents who really miss this connection, sometimes because of feelings of fear, difficulty, misplaced guilt, or even sheer exhaustion. And believe me, I get it. I was there.
Yeah.
I was absolutely there. These feelings are quite understandable, but they short circuit that cycle of choice making and consequence feeling that is so important. Let those consequences play out, even if sometimes it's not easy or palatable for your kid.
Stepping back a little bit and letting go a little bit.
Absolutely.
We recently on this show had a conversation about helping kids build up their grit or resilience. So I wanted to dig into another one of the habits that seems really relevant to this, and that is challenge your child in safe ways that get them out of their comfort zone. Could you give an example of this, and how does it support a child's growth?
Yeah, we know that every organism in this world grows through some amount of discomfort. In fact, we realize that neuroscience tells us that these cow paths in our brain turn into superhighways when we experience and adapt to little bits of adversity. So we're not talking about putting your kid in unsafe or painful situations, but not giving them all the information they need to solve every problem. And that goes from, we have parents who feel like, oh, we've got to make our child safer, more comfortable. And in fact, what we really need is to offer them some challenge. So whether that means not always lifting their feet up to put them exactly right on the pads on their wheelchair, or if it means requiring them to figure out how to take on a daily challenge in their life, in their home or at school, without giving them all the information they need to solve it in the moment. I had a great therapist that once told me when Jack was little, she said, you know what? If you don't constantly challenge Jack outside his comfort zone a little every day, he will atrophy. And so I took that advice seriously, and I always tried to seek out challenge for him as opposed to making him safer or more comfortable in every situation.
So I have to mention the final habit in the book, which is treat yourself with compassion. Where it's placed, it almost is like a final thought that you want to leave the reader with. Why do you see self-compassion as so essential for capable parenting?
Because we will make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And we need to remember that our children are resilient. They are forgiving. And if we mess up on occasion and lose it with our child, as we will, they will not crumble. You know what they'll do? They'll learn. They'll learn that the parents are humans who make mistakes and can do better. And it gives them a great model of self-forgiveness for themselves. I made plenty of mistakes, and what matters is your intentionality over the balance of a childhood.
I can't let you go without asking about your son, Jack, who's now a grown adult who lives in Denver, has a job. When you think back to when he was a child, what surprises you about his journey and where he is now?
I'm surprised at the amazing human that he's become. He's really out there living life on his own terms, experiencing what it feels like to live on your own. He just had a run-in with understanding what health insurance is like and navigating that system as an adult.
Oh, no.
And it's a challenge. And the thing that made me so, I guess that made me so proud is that I don't know what the next 5 years are going to bring for Jack, but I know that whatever they are, that I think he has what it takes to handle what life throws his way. And that's what makes me sleep well at night.
Deborah Winking is a writer and educator who lives in Fort Collins. Her newest book, Raising Capable Kids, is in bookstores now. You can find more information in our show notes and at KUNC.org. I want to take a moment to remind you that the In The NoCo team loves hearing from listeners like you. If you heard our interview today and have some thoughts on raising independent kids and you want to share those ideas, drop us a line. Or if you had thoughts on our recent conversation with a retired superintendent who's helping Colorado educators think about how immigration raids might affect their schools. Or our episode about how psychedelic therapy works, get in touch with me. Email the In The NoCo team at noco@kunc.org. And that's also a great way to suggest stories or interviews we should pursue, because we're public media, so this is your show too. Again, that email address is noco@kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.